Blog Talk Radio.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, Executive Producer of the Female Solution Radio Show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Grand Rising, and thank you for joining us on this Thursday edition of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. And we're about to join Dr. Debbie Green with Soulful Solutions from Dr. Debbie Green.
Tune in to Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear great topics and stories on grief and turn it into victory. Join Dr. Debbie Green to listen to stories of triumph and learn how to overcome. You are not alone in your life, and there is hope in the darkest hour. This is your time to learn strategies and solutions to improve your life. It's your time. So join Dr. Debbie Green with Soulful Solutions and call in on Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 515-605-9325 with comments and questions. Look to hear from you real soon.
If you have been in a situation where you have experienced a parent that abused alcohol or became an alcoholic, have you ever known someone who has been in that situation where they lived with an alcoholic and yet, knowing the horrors of it, became an alcoholic? What about a woman who was verbally abused by her mother, and then she turns around and abuses her children? This is what is called invisible loyalties. One becomes the very thing that they hate the most from the outside influences through emotional attachment and
human contact with environmental influences. Well, Dr. Debbie Green is going to join us to help us learn more about this critical topic and strategies to understand and eliminate any attachment you may be dealing with, known or unknown as invisible loyalties. It's said often that the abused becomes the abuser. And when something that is abusive is made normal to you, that is what you have learned. Children learn what they live. So Dr. Debbie Green is going to give us more about those invisible loyalties. Grand Rising, Dr. Debbie Green.
Good morning, Grand Rising, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Wow, what a day. We are embarking on a new month because I'm already in Friday.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes,
right.
Yes, I'm already in Friday. Absolutely. Well, good morning, Naima. How are you?
I am fantastic. Grateful to be living life on this side of the dirt. Yes.
Okay, that's it. Like as a friend of mine said, I ain't pushing up daisies yet. Under the ground, you're pushing up to the daisies. He said, no,
not yet.
I'm not pushing up daisies yet. He said, I'm still here. I said, okay.
Yes.
Awesome. But we have a wonderful topic this morning, and this topic came to me per one of my patients, actually, and because we were actually talking about this all week since Monday, and I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and just introduce this to the world and see, because I'm sure someone knows about it, but they may not know what it is. So I just kind of broke it down to so people can really understand it. You know what I'm saying? Understand invisible loyalty. So, when we hear that word loyalty, we thinking loyalty, someone's loyal towards us, so we're loyal to someone else. Well, it is an influencer. That's what it is. It's an influencer because we are a product of our childhood as well as our current environment and also other people's current environments and their childhood. Yeah. So whatever they actually experience and their forefathers, and it keeps going on, because we're still in that emotional addiction stage, like we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
So this is just another piece, Naima, that goes on this. And I didn't want to leave this out because, I really wanted people to understand that you are not what was created in you. Okay?
That's important to understand.
You are not what was created in you. A lot of times what we do, we relive lives.
Yes.
We relive past lives of other people.
Yes.
And we consciously we don't know. Because sometimes it's an unconscious state of mind. An unconscious state of mind is when things happen to us, through us, are around us, and we become that very thing that we despise.
Ooh. Yes.
So, to break that down, it's called, again, invisible loyalty. So I want to give a definition to that. And so that you can best understand it. Okay, so the invisible loyalties are the biological and psychological and also physiological transference of different actions, emotions, characteristics of your attachment influencers, which is your parents or whoever you grew up around. But not just grew up around, whoever impacted your life.
Yes. Could be even classmates.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, could even be classmates, perhaps, your peers.
Well, it could be, but these influencers are emotional impactment. So it's like, what, for example, I gave an example on my skit there when I was writing. It is like a woman that was, verbally assaulted by her mother when she was a child. Then she becomes that person she hates the most.
Yeah. And
she's doing that to her children.
Yeah.
Or a young boy that was influenced by his father's alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Oh, I'll never become that," but then he also becomes the one that's addicted to the alcohol. You see what I'm saying? So those are what they call invisible loyalties. It's just that when you become the thing, that you despise the most.
Wow.
But that's just one side of invisible loyalties. There's also another side of it is that when we feel in debt to a loved one or someone that might have passed on, as well as someone that is still living. Like, I never satisfied them. I never lived up to their expectations. So, in my life, I want to relive their life to prove to them that I am, say that I love them. I know that sounds a bit odd, but it's
especially
real,
if somebody was dysfunctional.
A lot of people don't live for themselves; they live for other people.
Wow. That is. I can think of many instances where people had an alcoholic parent, and they would say, "I'll never be like that," and then they get to a point in life and they start to drink, and then their drinking becomes the way they handle stress, and then they're always stressed, and the next thing you know, they become that person that they said they'd never be like. What happens, the reason why people can't stop themselves or see themselves becoming what they hate, like as you say, what happens that they do it subconsciously anyway?
Well, it's more of a self-conscious thought than it is a conscious thought. Our self-conscious is, I call it, it's our Rolodex, our store area. You know what I'm saying? We store everything there. Memories are stored there. Experiences, circumstances, situations are stored there in that area. And those emotions is also stored there, but the issues from those experiences, far as, that's stored in the heart. It's the issues I developed from those memories, from those consequences, I'm still carrying in my heart. So we are tripart beings, Naima. Body, we are spirit, we are mind, body, and soul. So all of our areas are experiencing trauma. It's not just your mind, because every traumatized event comes through the senses.
Yeah.
It comes through the eyes. It comes through the ears. It's in the perception of a person, right? So the thing about this is, if you can think about, let's just imagine somebody's training you, right? And you get trained by listening and watching, but you're not writing anything down. You're just listening and watching, and then you get it. Like it becomes innate to you because you've been listening and watching for a period of time. All right, so that's a memory, which is called a repetitive cycle, like we spoke about in the past.
Yeah.
When it's a repetitive cycle of things, it becomes a repetition. When it becomes a repetition, it becomes a habit. Okay? So in the back of the mind, which is called the subconscious mind, I'm going to refer to it as the autopilot. In the back of the mind, it is already trained from this experience.
Yeah.
So if there's ever a trigger from that area, triggers are the things that come from the outside in that stimulates that back of the mind experience, okay, automatically, that person is going to trigger because it's attached to that memory. You see what I'm saying? So when it's attached to that memory, then here comes an action. You see what I'm saying? The action comes. So the question that you asked me, how can someone become something that they don't want, that they don't want to experience? First, again, it's an automatic experience, right? So if they have a awareness, like emotionally, I am aware of myself. Mentally, I'm aware of myself physically, what I am doing, what I am saying, how I am saying it, how am I feeling that. Okay, if that person is all of those things, all right, then they're going to notice, oh, I'm just like my dad. I don't want to be like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't want to be like that. And then they take a drink and find out that that drink, you know, leads on to another drink, leads on to another drink. Then the addict realizes at some point, I said the addict because it's down the line.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm becoming the thing. If he realizes,
I'm becoming the thing
that I hate the most.
Yes.
And that's just in dealing with addiction. As far as alcoholism, substance abuse, drug activity. But then there's also, remember I told you, other addictions, which is emotional addiction.
Yeah.
You know, that comes with verbal abuse. That comes with domestic violence, family violence. Most people who are what it says, acting out in some type of family violence that has been exposed to family violence at some given point. You've been exposed to it, whether it's verbal, physical, sexual, you know, emotional. You've been exposed to it. So, again, because it's innate, it's inside of you. It's literally inside of you because it came through your senses. So if it's inside of you, then what happens is that you will start responding this way, whether you realize or not. Again, if you have self-awareness, I'm aware of what I'm doing, then you will catch yourself in doing it and then change those patterns.
Can a person change those? Can a person change those patterns without help, without counseling, without some kind of guidance? Because apparently they're operating on a subconscious level, not even realizing they've become that thing until they're already in it. So what kind of help do they need to come out of that compulsive behavior?
Well, it depends on if it's mild, moderate, or severe. If it's mild, mild means like, oh, wow, you know, oh, no, I am not going to be like them. Okay, and that's we draw the line in the sand, right? That I am not going to do that. All right? And they stay diligent with that. They make a commitment to it. Okay, you're right. And we've seen that before. We've seen people who had all of this trauma in their life, and then they came out, and they become very productive citizens.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But then we also saw the opposite. We saw the opposite of moderate and severe. Moderate is like, you know, I become this thing and I don't know how to handle it, but I'm still, you know, trying and struggling in it. See what I'm saying? Not knowing that really and truly I need to get help, but I think I can deal with it. I don't want, you know, I don't want to tell anybody about it. I just, you know, want to deal with it. I'm just gonna struggle in it, you know, continually until I can't struggle anymore. Of course, then I'm going to become severe at that point. And when I become severe, then that's when I no longer am myself. I don't even know who I am anymore because I've lost my identity. I became something that I hated.
That happens.
Invisible loyalties are just that deep. They are, and you can come out of it if you have, again, self-awareness and make a commitment to yourself. But if you can't do that, then you definitely need to seek it. You need to seek help.
Yeah.
So that you can. Like, for example, I have a patient that's been truly traumatically affected by her mother's means, which is her mother, you know, put her up for adoption, and she later on found her. And she still did not treat her like a mother would treat a child. So, which means that trauma became so severe to the point where she couldn't even function, you know, to properly raise her children. You see what I'm saying? And she didn't, it's like it affected her life to the point where she didn't know how to even react to her children emotionally at all.
I've seen cases like that.
She didn't have that. You've seen cases like that?
And I'm wondering if, especially when it comes to mothering, people think there's a mother instinct, but really mothering has to be learned and experienced. And I've seen maybe situations where a couple of different generations of mothers would pass down bad mothering to the next generation. Maybe they were women who had been abused, and so they were abusive to their children. They lacked the capacity to express affection. They were very violent and punitive. They were verbally abusive. And the children from those mothers, many of them developed addictions, were abusive in their own relationships, were violent in their own relationships. And then, of course, they produced children, and they subjected their children to the same abuse they received. And so their children grew up in dysfunctional families where the mother lacked the capacity to show affection. There was alcoholism or drug addiction, verbal abuse. So, I mean, I've seen families where there have been maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 generations of that same behavior. And because each generation experienced that, as far as they know, it was normal behavior, even though they hated it, even though, you know, each generation might say, well, I will never treat my child the way my mother treated me. And then they turn around and do it. You know, they become the parent that's always hitting the child. And you know, they become the parent that, you know, will get drunk and zone out and leave the child to fend for themselves in terms of meals and things like that. I mean, just, you know, abuse, neglect, verbal abuse, you know, all these things. And of course, these are people who, because that behavior was made to seem normal, they never considered counseling. And, you know, sometimes culturally, you know, our people just will not get counseling for some reason. It's like, you know, suck it up, you know, hide it in religion. And these might be families that this is abusive, but will go to church and, you know, all kinds of the appearance of spirituality. And then in the homes you have all this hell going on. And then they'll go to church and blame the devil and say, oh, the devil got my son. And yeah, but how are you talking to you? You raise your son, call him all kind of names, and you're surprised that he's an alcoholic now? You're surprised that he's in drugs? I mean, you know, I'm watching this, and, you know, how is it that people don't see the pattern of their own behavior in damaging their children? Why don't they see it?
Because it's unconscious. It's unconscious. It's not conscious. Conscious, like eyes wide open, I see, I hear, I know what I'm doing. Consciously, it's all autopilot. They're living subconsciously. I know that sounds odd, but it's very true. They live unconsciously. They're not making present decisions. It's just based upon thought process. You know what I mean?
Patterns of behavior.
For example, like questions. Patterns of behavior, right? Like invisible loyalties, and this may also answer your question as well. It's like these questions are usually answered or asked, as I said. Who held the power in your primary relationships you witnessed as a child? You know, and that right there, like I say, your father or your mother, whoever the primary, who held the power inside of the you know, your household. That person is who you're going to duplicate. Whoever held the power. Whoever held the power is who you're going to duplicate. And then it's like, and how was the power used? Was it used to demean? Was it used to control? You know, how was the power used? Okay, and the next question is, how were feelings treated? Like, how was after the power was used, how was the feelings treated? Like, were they ignored? Were they told not to feel? Were they told not to exist? You know what I'm saying? Or were they aware? You know, yeah, I see you. You know, I see you. I know that you feel it. But, I mean, were they handled correctly? did you see affection between the people, like the one that was holding the power and the one wasn't?
Mm-hmm.
Was there any affection between them? Because if there wasn't, then it was one of those households where somebody was ruled by iron hand, and there was no flexibility to feel. There was no flexibility to say anything. Even if you didn't agree with it, there was no flexibility there at all. Nobody wanted to know what you had to say, or if you did have something to say, if it wasn't said the way they wanted to say it, then you are wrong, or you may get reprimanded for it.
Yeah.
Were there any problems solved, or was problems just left unsolved? You know, did you have a problem as you were growing up that no one seemed to take seriously? They just ignored it. And the last question was there any open communication? Because if there wasn't any open communication, that means there was a household full of suppressed emotions. So everybody suppressed because no one communicated. Because the only way to prevent suppressed emotions is to communicate. You know, open form of saying, I feel this, I think that. And if no one, again, if there was no open communication allowed in your household, then you grew up in a suppressed household, and there's a good chance when you went to school you were suppressed. As you grew up, you continued to be suppressed, and before you realize it, you are then, again, still under the same power that you were when you were a child, even though that time has passed.
So how does a child, or maybe I guess an adult now, once you get through childhood, how do you recognize when what you were experiencing in childhood was not healthy? And I ask that because most people who are living in households where maybe there was no affection, there was no positive reinforcement, they don't know what they're missing. They just know the effects of it. If maybe they had a stern mother or a stern father that was, maybe calling themselves showing tough love, but was never affectionate or even kind or loving. It was always just disciplinarian, always criticism. And I've known people where they think this parenting style is good because it teaches a child how to be tough and self-reliant. They believe that. And they don't know when it has crossed the line to emotional abuse because that's how they were raised. And they may have succeeded career-wise or business-wise because they worked hard, trying to prove their mother or father wrong, who said, oh, you'll never be anything, you're good for nothing. So they're working against the put-downs of the parents who raised them and made them feel bad, and they've got all the personality disorders that come from that, but they don't see it. And then when they reproduce it in their own children, they don't see that that is a problem and how they're destroying their child because there's nothing maybe to compare that environment to. Maybe they didn't spend time in a friend's home where the mother was loving and hugging them and, giving them affection and praise, or the father was kind and spent time with them and, help them with homework or whatever the case may be. Maybe they didn't see a contrast, so they believed what they were living, as abusive as it may have been, was a normal way of life, and they don't see the tie between that and maybe some of the personality traits that they have that make them unbearable for people to be around or for them to sustain a loving relationship. So how does a person who grows up in that scenario recognize that isn't the way it should be, that isn't the environment, that's not a healthy environment for a child? How do they learn that if that's all they knew and that's what they become?
Right. You talked about several things and you asked several questions, so I'll just start at the beginning. When you were saying the overachiever is the person that grew up in a home and did not get the love, did not get the attention, did not get the pat on the shoulder saying, oh, you did a great job. it was never enough to the caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
It was never enough that you made the A, even though you struggled with it, to make it, but it was never enough for them. They said, well, make another A, you know what I'm saying? So it was never enough, so they become overachievers.
Mm-hmm.
Overachievers is where, I feel I have to be successful so that I can take care of myself, because I don't want anyone else taking care of me because of what I've already been through.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I don't want anyone to be, what they said, I don't want to rely on anyone. Let me say it like that. I don't rely on anyone, and I don't want to accept help from nobody, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is the way they live their lives. But unfortunately, when it comes time that they really need some help, they won't ask. So they start avoiding people. They start self-sabotaging, and that causes a problem. So in the other cases that you said, like, when they are kind of living this life and may not have all, again, they may be dealing with it. You have people say, oh, I just dealt with that. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing that thing needs to change. It's not that you need to deal with it. You need to change it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So what they did, they accepted it in their life and didn't put forth any effort to come out of it. They just kind of allowed it to stay there, thinking it was a permanent, in their life, a permanent action, a permanent thought, or whatever. Because they're not self-aware that this is not working for me. You know what I'm saying? Because they look at, like, some people just live in dysfunction, Naima. That's what they're used to.
Wow.
So coming out of dysfunction is odd to them. They don't know how to function out of dysfunction.
They don't know how to function out of dysfunction.
It sounds weird, but it's true.
Yes.
It's true. When you tell them, hey, you're causing a major problem in your life, you don't want to continue to do this, they're like,
they don't see
okay,
it. They don't see it.
No. And then they'll say, well, I'm comfortable here. I'm comfortable here because this is all I know.
Yes.
I've been in dysfunction so long, I don't know how to be functional.
Yeah. Don't know what functioning looks like. Yeah.
Don't know what it looks like. And then they'll say the new normal. I just want to be normal again. Okay, I said, what is normal? I don't know. I never experienced it.
Right. So how do you help somebody who doesn't even know what normal looks like? Because for them, normal is the abnormal. That's what they know, especially if they're in their adults, say in their 30s. You pretty much 40s, 50s. Yeah, I mean, you are who you are at that point. So is it possible to unlearn negative behavior and relearn positive behavior? Is it possible to do that once you've become an adult and you're ingrained in your habitual thought patterns and behaviors and responses? Is it possible to unlearn that kind of negative behavior?
It is. It is very possible when you have someone that's helping you identify. See, that's the difference. If you don't have anyone to help you identify these actions, these thoughts, these behaviors, and like all you know is that I'm living this life and nothing seems to go right. That's all you know.
Right.
So it's like, I ain't never been happy. I don't know what that feels like. You hear people say that. I don't know what it feels like to have a good, solid relationship. I don't know, because of the dysfunction that they have in their lives. Right? So coming to a person that can help them identify and understand the dysfunction. They say, when you do this, don't you receive that? Doesn't this happen? Yes. Okay, this happens because you did this. So in order for you to change that, you have to do something else. You have to do the opposite of that thing.
Right.
And then, I don't know if I can do that because I've been like this so long. I heard that so many times.
Yes.
I said, no, it's that you have to get repetition.
Yes.
Repetition is when you do something over and over again. I said, that's how you got the first start in the first place. You saw something over and over again, but you also felt something over and over again. So then it became a permanent mindset. So you have to do the opposite of the thing.
Right.
So, for example, if I have low self-esteem and someone, when I was growing up, contributed to that low self-esteem, which means my somebody told me, oh, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, you can't get nothing right. Okay, that produces a person that has low self-esteem.
Right.
All right, so at some given point, I want to be successful. I'm going to be successful because they always told me what I was not. So I'm going to do something to make myself feel good. Well, you should. That's for those people who are high achievers. Now, the low achiever will just sulk and moan right there. They'll do but so much, but they'll never feel good enough, no matter what they do. And, I want to use an example. Whitney Houston was one of the most, and as far as I'm concerned, the most beautiful voice in the world.
Yeah.
She never felt good enough. She never felt.
Yes.
I mean, out of all of these, people that was there to listen,
adored her and everything, but inside she was saying she was worried about. She wasn't pretty enough.
Never felt.
Yeah.
Never felt. So it's a good chance that she grew up in an atmosphere that she felt she never measured up to. Because Sissy Houston, she was her mother, as well as Dionne Warwick was her, family as well.
Yeah.
So all of these were, very prestigious, artists.
High-achieving performing artists, yes.
Yeah. So when she came along, apparently she must have been in some type of area that made her feel that she wasn't worthy of her gifts. And this is something she suffered with for the duration of her life.
Yes.
So that's called invisible loyalty.
Yeah, I was just watching earlier this morning, actually, I guess a little short interview that Oprah had done with, I guess some of her family members and the people who kind of introduced her to drugs. But you're only susceptible if you already are feeling bad, because the drugs are to escape the bad feeling that you have. So if you feel bad, then you look for a way to artificially feel better, and that's a person's introduction to addiction. Because first comes the bad feeling that you're trying to escape. So, everybody hearing that she would have had low self-esteem is like shocking, like, how's it possible? I mean, you got crowds of people cheering you. How are you feeling that way? And yet,
doesn't matter.
And I remember even watching an interview with Michael Jackson. He talked about how his father would call him ugly and all those things, and he, just the whole way that they were kind of forced into entertainment at a childhood age, and you better learn these steps. So I got my strap ready if you miss it. I mean, it's just like, okay, this is not fun. But all of the breakdown of self-esteem for somebody who just became a just globally famous superstar like a Michael Jackson, but then, you look at the surgeries and everything else to change the face because, your father's telling you you're ugly, all those things, it's almost like a parent can lay such a foundation of self-contempt because of what they say and their belief that they're motivating you to try harder. It just seems like it's almost insurmountable to overcome without some deep therapy to undo that damage. Yes. True. Yes. We got to take a break, but we'll be back. And if you're on our switchboard now and have a comment, feel free to press 1. If you're listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1 so that you can ask your question of Dr. Debbie as we talk about invisible loyalties. So we'll be right back after this quick break, so we want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in just a moment, so stay with us.
Do you worry about finances, family, health, jobs, relationships? Are you in pain? Do you feel stuck? If you answered yes to any of these questions, help is available. Don't worry, you're not alone. It's part of the human process. You only feel this way because you haven't mastered the voices in your head. No hype, just down-to-earth, solid, workable tools and techniques that you can practice daily. It's really food for the soul, whether you want to learn how not to worry about anything, reverse type 2 diabetes, publish a book, promote your product or service, or just make extra money. To take advantage of the deal of the day, go to zeldaspeaks.com or call 312-409-6619. Mention promo code The Female Solution and get free shipping. That's zeldaspeaks.com or 312-409-6619. Stop worrying today. Visit zeldaspeaks.com.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif, executive producer of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. We are a part of the online network of Associated Internet radio hosts, On Air. On Air empowers you with transformative news and interactive radio TV shows. This is such a wonderful time to be alive and to see our human family coming together as one community as a result of that powerful tool, the Internet. We can now talk directly to each other all over the world. There's no need for conflict or misunderstanding. There's no need for violence to solve our differences. We can talk to each other face to face until we reach an agreement. On Air offers a fantastic global guide to communicators from all over the world who are using their internet platforms to inspire us to strive to be our best selves in order to become the kind, compassionate, loving people we were all born to be. Once we do that, we'll see planet Earth transformed into a place of peace. Subscribe to the recommended YouTube channels, Facebook pages, and podcasts created by these Voices of Enlightenment. On Air provides daily news briefs and a weekly magazine to keep you abreast of events and opportunities. On Air news affiliates in television, radio, and print share information, insight, and interviews with notable personalities. Go to onaireverywhere.com for a daily dose of uplifting news. We're on air everywhere, online all the time.
I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
Have you ever dreamed of going to exotic places, meeting fascinating people, enjoying uplifting music, and spending nights in a luxurious hotel? Do you look forward to a relaxing vacation where you can walk along the beach or sit in a quiet park and enjoy the sunset or sunrise? Whether you're flying around the world or driving across the country, we will share travel tips that will help you stay safe while you enjoy the journey. Join me every third Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and move around with Deborah here on the Female Solution Show. Call in and comment 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak.
All right, welcome back to to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green with my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, our executive producer. Again, if you're just joining us, our topic today is invisible loyalties. What invisible loyalties are is when you become something from your past, from your childhood, from your parental influencers. So as we experience these things, when we were children, and then we become those things sometimes. And again, this is not always the case. If you're consciously aware of your life, if you're consciously aware of your actions, then therefore you will not, find yourself in this position. But we just, I wanted to really explain those things to you because there's so many times that we do find ourselves becoming something that we despise the most. One of those things that often happen is, again, when we're verbally assaulted. When we're verbally assaulted by a family member, such as a grandmother or mother or father, and we would say, well, I would never do that to my children or whatever. But then we find ourselves screaming and yelling at our children the same way. So, how could one become unconscious in that, which means not have the awareness that really did happen. So it's one of those things that as time goes on, you realize that this is becoming a problem because the person that you are inflicting that upon is going to change. They're going to change. They're going to find themselves in a very uncomfortable position mentally, emotionally, physically, because of the actions that they have been rendered. So it's one of those things that we have to be totally responsible for our own actions and look at how things can affect our lives and make a conscious decision. Is this how I want to live? Is this how I want my children to live? Is this what I want to speak to my generation that's coming even, after me? It's so many different things that happens during these times. So I want to share something with you, some research actually considering the area of invisible loyalties. It reads that research demonstrates that there are biological, physiological, psychological effects of trauma. The person becomes a victim and will likely experience a rupture in his or her daily routine. Coping and adaptation patterns will be passed down to future generations. This process of passing down family behavior patterns is considered to be done at both conscious and unconscious levels. That was a research that was done, when they were looking at how one is influenced or impacted by their environment and also their trauma. We asked some questions earlier about how does this happen? What causes this to happen? Well, trauma is transmitted actually in three different ways. It's transmitted physically as well as epigenetics, and that's through the genes, the DNA. It's also transmitted in intrautero, which means when your mother was carrying you, if she experienced any trauma, then that trauma will also be transferred to you. And you're like, well, wait a minute, what does that mean? That means I am going to suffer emotionally from that trauma? You will be more sensitive to that trauma if you experience it in your life. That's what it means. Like, for example, if she was traumatically affected by when someone screamed at her, yelled at her, and she became very emotional, you will also feel the same way. And you say, well, doesn't everybody feel that way? Not necessarily. Some people, when they are in a confrontation like that, they then, do several things. They can actually respond to it, or they can shut down. It just depends. When I say shut down, which means don't say anything and just walk away, or they may suppress that thought, and it becomes an emotional issue. when it comes to the bloodline, then, of course, quite naturally, it's going to affect you because that's what we are. We get characteristics from the bloodline. Like you said, oh, you're just like your daddy, or you're just like your mama, or you did this, or you did that. You see what I'm saying? Okay, those are actions and emotions that are from the bloodline. That's where it's from. But that doesn't mean that that's something you have to stay that way. I mean, people label people all the time. We were labeled by our parents. You know what I'm saying? Your auntie might have said, oh, you look just like your mama. I mean, in so many different ways a person can label another person. But, for the sake of understanding, I just wanted to put this out here because the thing about this is a lot of these actions that has been experienced, through epigenetics, but also through invisible loyalties, has interrupted people's lives. And it continues to go on. Let me give you an example. You grew up in a house that had domestic violence, okay, and you might have had 4 siblings. Out of those 4 siblings, it may be maybe 2 or 3 that was greatly affected. Even yourself, right? Everybody was greatly affected. But the question is, who is going to become the batterer? Who's going to become the person that actually acts out this particular action that they've been exposed to? It may not be you, but it might have been a brother. And those things are called, again, invisible loyalties. Is when we become the thing that we hate the most. And sometimes we know it and sometimes we don't know it because it's either unconscious or consciously developed. And if we can look at some mild cases is like, you might have seen how you handle people like in emotion of that nature. In your personal relationships, you might have like, wow, I mean, I can't seem to really, get along with people one-on-one. I'm saying? I'm having a hard time having a healthy relationship. Okay, so where do you think that came from? Did you come out of a pattern with a healthy relationship, first of all? Was it, did you see that in your family? Did you see that in your aunties? Did you see that in your, in some cousins or something that you grew up around? Okay, it's a good chance that, that type of thought is still in the back of your mind, not feeling that you can have a healthy relationship. We are what we think, okay? So whatever we think inside, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we become. We become those things. So how do you say, well, wait a minute, Dr. Deb, so you mean to tell me that I've become this dysfunctional person based because of what I've been experiencing? Yes, it's called impaction. Impaction is one of those things that happens when we are exposed. When we are exposed to things and when we're younger, subconsciously, it is pre-recorded, okay, in our brain. And the thing about this is sometimes we know and sometimes we don't know. We don't understand and sometimes we do understand, and sometimes we know it and we avoid it. It's so many ways that we deal with it, or we accept it or we don't accept it. But again, if you haven't done any self-inventory lately, you probably will not even notice it. Or you may notice it. You're like, why am I doing this? Why I keep doing this like my mama? I don't want to be like her. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Okay, well, you got to change it. And so you say, how do you change something that's been innate by repetitive action? But you first got to acknowledge it. You got to acknowledge it. Because, see, when things are transmitted, okay, they are transmitted, again, comes through the utero, it comes through the physics, it comes through the generational, and we can still talk about these generational curses. Curses are anything that doesn't produce life, people. Okay, that thing is transmitted, right? And we know this. And addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol, addiction to sex, addiction to all kinds of things. Mental illness is even transmitted. Certain mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, not so much. You know what I'm saying? But at the same token, all right, knowing this, all right, you notice that if you have these issues, just don't ignore them and think that they're going to go away like this. They're not going to go poof overnight, right? No, we want to work through this stuff, right? So usually it is when it comes to psychological transmission, because I want you to get a good understanding with this. Psychological transmission is done when we feel totally overwhelmed by a situation, okay? Now remember, all of this started when you were a child. How many times were you overwhelmed? How many times were you overstimulated by something you saw? How many times were you disappointed? How many times were you afraid? And you say, oh, I lost count. I don't know how many times. I don't know how many times I actually felt like, everything was just going to fall apart or did fall apart. Okay. So if you've done it pretty often, there's a good chance that that is a repetitive thought which produced a repetitive action and behavior. That's exactly what it is. All right, so it's in the back of your mind. We're going to call that the autopilot so you can understand. It's in the back of your mind. And so anytime you are triggered, anytime something happens in your immediate world, okay, in your reality, all right, and you are triggered, boom, here you go, back into that cycle. You see what I'm saying? Unconsciously. No, it's not consciously, it's unconsciously, unless you catch it. Now, if you catch it, okay, which means if you're totally aware, wow, this is happening, let me do something about this thing, all right, then you can change it. But if you don't catch it, then you don't know anything about it. Will other people see it? Absolutely. They will see it. They will say, wait a minute, what's wrong? Why are you doing that? Well, and you be like, what? What do you mean, why I'm doing what? Because remember, you wasn't aware of it, right? And there may be something that's really problematic, which means causing problems in your life. So you definitely want to pay attention to that, and again, ask yourself, okay, is this a problem? Is it causing me a problem? Is it causing me problems in my workplace? Is it causing problems with me and my family? Is it causing problems with me, in myself, period? If that word is yes, then you need to do, again, some self-evaluation. Let me look at my thoughts. Let me really, really pay attention to my actions. Really pay attention to my responses so that I can identify what is dysfunctional and what is functional. Okay. So once you identify, now you got to reenact, which means that, okay, I've been doing this thing for so long, now I got to change the action. Now remember, you change the action from being one way, acknowledging it, and then turning around and then saying, okay, I can't do that anymore, I need to do this. I can't do that anymore, I need to do this. Even though your subconscious mind is triggering that, immediately, no, I can't do that. So this thing I usually use and give to my client and patients is called the power of pause. The power of pause clearly says, I am doing nothing in this moment, but I am only analyzing where I am. I'm becoming an observer, not a participant. I am becoming an observer in my life, but not a participant. Because right now I'm overstimulated. I'm overwhelmed. I feel a lot of anxiety. I feel like I'm almost getting into depression or something is happening. Start observing, which means observe yourself, observe your actions, observe your body, observe your mind, observe the feelings, the emotions. Just start observing. Right, start analyzing. As you observe, start analyzing. Why am I doing this? How long have I been doing that? Start looking at your patterns of thought, patterns of action. What are you doing? You're changing. When you start observing, you start changing. You cannot change unless you realize what to change. And you cannot observe until you sit back and watch it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's hard enough to just be in something that's dysfunctional that you didn't know that was dysfunctional because you've been living it too long. You see what I'm saying? So you think, oh, this is me. And everybody's like, no, you got issues. And you're like, nah, I don't have any issues. It ain't me. It must be you. Okay? But then one day you realize that it was your issues. You did have these issues, but the thing about this was you were not aware of it. Okay, now you are aware, right? Now you become totally aware, and this is a spiritual awareness. It's a spiritual awakening thing. Totally waking up, right? Not looking at it from a regret. Oh, woe is me. I should have known this a long time ago. No, you react right in your moment. Now the moment becomes surreal. Then you're going to take it seriously, right? You're going to take it seriously. Then you're going to look at your life, and you're going to then change what you need to change about you. You can't change everybody else, okay? No one, you can't. It's impossible to change other people. You can't change them. You may can influence them. You may can direct them. You may even can guide them, but you can't change them. I mean, I'm a mental health therapist and been one for a long time. And I often tell people, I said, I can't change you. You got to change yourself. I can give you the tools, you know. I can give you the tools so you can change yourself. But you have to make that conscious decision to come out of the old mindset and create the new one. Because you are the what was, you are the what is, and the what's coming to be. Every one of us the same way. What was is in your past, whether it's trauma, whether it's abuse, crisis, loss, whatever it is, that is what was. What was is time ticking. Okay, 5 minutes ago is what was. So what am I saying to you? You cannot be a product of your past. You can only strive to be a product of your future by being a product of your present. Okay. Present moment clearly says, I am aware. That's all. I'm aware of me, just me. I'm aware of what I'm going through. I don't want these invisible loyalties that I suffer with my family, with my, my upbringers, because we know mother and father's been always raised their children. It might have been grandmother. It might have been this. It might have been that. Whoever raised you, you ask yourself a question. Was it dysfunctional? Did it make you feel some kind of way? Well, did it make you feel like you were overpowered? Did you find peace in it? If there was no peace, that's a good chance that it wasn't any, period. Okay, long story short, you can't relive the past. You cannot relive the past. The only thing you can do is live in your present moment. I always tell people, live moment to moment. If you feel overwhelmed by life, live moment to moment. Not day by day. That's too long. That's too much space for you. Live moment to moment. Moment to moment clearly says, I am present of me in this moment. I am consciously aware of me in this moment. In this moment, I own me in this moment. Even though all may going on around me, even though things may feel like they're tearing me down, but guess what? They can't own my moment because it belongs to me. God gave it, and He created it just for me. We call it a present, is it not? The present day is just the present day. The question is, did you open it or not? Oh, wait a minute. If I open it, it's empty? Oh, yes. That's because God doesn't know how you want to live, okay? He just gave you the present for you to determine. So, again, we don't want to relive the invisible loyalties of the past, right? Don't live your trauma. Don't be your trauma. Don't breathe, eat, sleep your trauma. What good will it do for you? It's not going to benefit you to do so. It's not going. It only slows you down in life. It doesn't speed you up. It slows you down. How will one get slowed down? By experiencing the same things over and over again. Over and over again. Okay. Yeah. I was just giving my viewers and my listeners some pep talk. And that's our goal. Our goal is to increase mentally and expound spiritually. Every single moment of the day.
That's
moment to moment, moment to moment, moment to moment.
Yeah.
I don't live any other way. I don't live day by day. I live moment to moment.
Well, that's For those who've ever been part of a recovery program, such as maybe AA or something, but really there's some wisdom in that, because if you're worrying, then you're living in the future that hasn't happened yet, and you're anticipating something negative. And if you're depressed, then you're living in the past of something that made you sad, and so you're living that, and that has already happened, so it's not happening again unless you keep bringing it back. So the wise thing is to live moment to moment. It's to experience the present of the present and to enjoy, because joy is a choice. And for people who are living in anger over something that happened, you have to ask yourself, why are you choosing to relive an unpleasant experience when it is gone? No, that person is not hurting you anymore. Now you're hurting yourself, because the person can only hurt you once. But you pull up the memory and re-hurt yourself. They're not doing that to you. You're doing that to yourself. And so I think the process of unlearning that habitual response of reliving and remembering and rehashing something painful, that's the challenge that we have, is realizing reliving it isn't going to make it hurt any less. It's just going to make you re-hurt. Why are you doing that?
Right. And for the sake of, I want to actually give some information on alcoholism, because this is one of the transference that is major, and I mean all of it is very critical, but it's major.
Is so common.
Yeah.
We got to take another quick break, and then we've got a caller on the line that has raised her hand, and we'll be right back. And if you have a question for Dr. Debbie, we want you to call in, 515-605-9325. Make sure you press 1. Light your number up on the switchboard. If you're on our switchboard now, press 1 so that we know you have something to say or ask. And if any of these situations she described sound like you or someone you know and love, feel free to call in and maybe get some advice on how best to respond. We'll be right back. So stay with us.
We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, the earth will be populated by a new generation of adults, many of whom are yet unborn. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for fellow human beings in the next generation of children, they will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. Go to www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com.
Mama Joy. And I'm Reverend Rosemary. Join us every second Saturday of the month, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central Time, here on the Female Solution Global Radio TV show for Neighborship of Joy. We'll have powerful conversations inviting women to walk in the light. So call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak to the host. You can also join us live on the Female Solution Facebook page and YouTube channel. So see you on the second Saturday on the Neighborship of Joy.
Hey, it's time to take charge of your health. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach, and every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'm here on the Female Solution to empower you to make choices that will assist your evolution to abundant health. I'm also blogging every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at Soul Purpose Healing, where I bring you a spiritual chiropractic adjustment to bring you back into alignment with our Creator's love, compassion, and wisdom. Join me every Friday morning at 8 a.m. and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. for a time of unity, enlightenment, and love vibrations. Shalom.
And we are back.
Oh, now you're playing it.
No. Took it a minute to start. All right, let's take this caller.
I don't know where it went to.
Yeah, my computer decided to pause. All right, 773-737. Your mic is open.
Well, hallelujah. Greetings, global transformers. We'onya Shalom, grand rising.
Yeah.
You know, spiritual things are foolish to the carnal mind. It is written in the Black History Bible book, whose hero is a woolly-haired man with bronze-colored feet to match his bronze-colored face. You must be born again. Answering the question, who raised you, is important. And when you think about that, your environment and all the people that were in it the first 4 years of your life, when your subconscious brain was educated, and that is the brain that will be in you forever, because you get 80% of all your information during those first 4 years of life. Your environment raised you. And every in that environment influenced your raising. When you think about it, you don't own anything but your name, and your mother gave that to you. And so identity, who am I? You know, when I had a class as a certified Montessori educator, I had a class of 18 two-year-olds and one assistant. And bringing yourself up to the level of a child was so beautiful, a wonderful experience, because the children hadn't been polluted. And they taught me something. We observed Kwanzaa, and I was trying to wisdom and truth, but I was saying we give spiritual gifts. And the children kept saying spirit gifts. And I kept saying spiritual, which is an adjective that describes a noun, gift. I kept saying spiritual. And they wanted to please me so much because they loved me with all their little hearts and minds and souls, until tears started to bud up in their eyes. I said, whoa, I gotta step back. And they kept saying spirit gifts. And when I thought about it, it is gifts of the spirit. It is not gifts of the spiritual world. I said, that is why it's written, out of the mouth of babes comes perfected praise. They had it right, and I had it wrong. And children are so much our superior. I guess that's why it's written in that Black History Bible book, to you must bring a little child shall lead you, but you have to educate that little child in the righteous way in which they should go. And we don't. And when they get exposed to scribble scrabble, like one of my 3-year-olds said, that's not my work. That's scribble scrabble. I said, oh, I'm thinking, where did that word scribble scrabble come from? He had been exposed to an older child who also was helping to educate them. And the older child had told them, oh, that's nothing, that's scribble, scrabble. So I couldn't let this child go through a life with a feeling of self-rejection. This was his work. And Maria Montessori always said, you've got to call it work, because play to a child is like work to an adult. So we were not allowed to say it wasn't their work. So I said to him, oh, no, that isn't scribble scrabble. Isn't that you at your birthday party? And he said, yeah. I said, and is that your birthday cake over there? Yeah. And who is that? That's my friend. He was on a big wheel. And, I said, see, I told you.
You're going to interpret all that, huh?
So that's what I mean. Everything is educating us, is influencing us during those first 4 years of life. Subject, I appreciate you having it, because we really need to stop, look, and especially listen, because these little children can teach you a lot. But we are always doing the telling and the sitting, and like you said last week, shut up, sit down. 80% of all that you've ever heard, shut up, sit down, don't do this and don't do that. And your face should light up, because children are gifts from God sent to earth so people can smile. And every time you see one, why don't your face light up?
Yes.
And in conclusion, haven't you heard the expression, treat me like a child? Well, if you don't want to be treated like a child, who you must become like, then there's something wrong with the way you are treating children. Because if you were treating them right, it would be your greatest pleasure to be treated like a child.
That was profound, Mama. That was profound. Just think about how that is insulting to people. You treat me like a child. So how are we treating our children if that's the worst thing you can do is treat someone like a child? That's a testimony to the fact that we are treating our children badly. We're demeaning them. We're talking down to them and we're insulting them. We're talking to them like they're stupid. We're criticizing what they do, like you say that child who was told their work just scribble scrabble. So to be treated like a child means to be treated with disrespect. There, in that very expression, lets us know how we're treating children. And if this is the way we're treating our children, we're seeing it as normal to treat children badly. Thank you so much, Mama D. That was so profound, and I really hope that we can grasp that reality, that the wounds that we create are right in childhood. And we think it's normal to treat children badly. That's the problem. We believe that this is how children are supposed to be treated. And this is where all of the suffering starts, is in childhood. So what if we stop treating children badly? Could we actually eliminate all of the emotional problems that adults have if they had no bad childhood memories? What do you think about that, Dr. Debbie? Could we really not create the problems if we just treated our children well?
Absolutely, but I'm going to tell you right now, pain brings it brings on change. And it also produces stress. So we would not, what I'm saying is we would love to have the perfect childhood, which is, in my means, not possible. I don't believe there is a perfect childhood because there's not a perfect thing in this world. So, for children to grow up, I'm just a perfect little person, you know what I'm saying? And here comes the world, they got to deal with this imperfected. So then they compare that to what they think. You see what I'm saying? And that actually is traumatizing in itself. But, for a child to experience abuse, crisis, any type of demoralization, any type of, put down, to say it simply, any type of put down, no, they should not experience that in their childhood. But we know that mental pressure, mental pain, emotional pain creates some of the strongest human beings.
It does.
It creates strength.
I have a question.
It creates strength. So
it does.
I can't say it doesn't have its perfect fit in the world because that's not true.
Well, I have a question. You know the saying, whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. But the thing is, it can also kill you. I have a question, just a memory of when I was raising my child, and I had some other family members around observing, something simple. My daughter asked for a banana. I said, oh, okay, here, you can have a banana. And a family member said, you just give her everything she wants, don't you? I said, well, why not? Oh, you're just going to spoil her. She's going to think that she's supposed to have everything she wants in life. That's not how you raise a child. You have to tell them no sometimes. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking, so I should deny her something that I have that she's asked for that isn't harmful to her just so that she can know what it feels like not to have? Why would that be a good thing if what I want to instill in her is, first of all, that I'm a loving parent that would not deny her something just so that she could know what it feels like not to have it? And I remember an explanation that Jesus was giving as he was explaining to his followers and, his disciples and everything about prayer. Who would ignore their child's plea for something if they ask? Of course, if you ask and ask, you're going to get it, because you're asking from someone who loves you. So that was my thought in terms of, the things that you deny your child is because it's something that would be harmful to them in some way. But if it's something that they want and there's no harm in it, why would we have the mindset that as a good parent I should just tell them no sometimes just so that they know they're not going to get everything they want? Because that's a very common belief about parenting, a very common response to parents who were raised that way, where sometimes their parents just said no just so that they wouldn't be so-called spoiled. I don't agree with that idea of you spoil a child if you give them everything they want, because if you're giving something that isn't harmful, it's not harming you to give it, it's not creating stress for you to give it, it's something that is good for them in the long run or could add to their well-being, what would be the purpose of saying no just to give them the experience of feeling denied? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's several ways to look at that, Naima. The thing about this is you got needs, you have wants, and you have desires, okay? A need is based upon the well-being and the self-preserving, human way of doing things. Like I need water, I need food, I need shelter, things of that nature. And then you have the wants. The wants are optional. It's like, you have some parents say, well, you may want a new pair of shoes, but you don't need a new pair of shoes. You see what I'm saying? Because you got several over here, right? You know what I'm saying? So if a parent gives a child everything it asked for without helping them to understand the reason why they're giving it, like, okay, independence, what we call interdependence, like if the parent is constantly giving, but not actually creating a paradigm of structure in the giving, then it's going to cause a rift later on, because that person, which is the child, is going to think that, people, not just the parent, but people should give them what they asked for because they've never been refused that, right? So refusement, like if you tell somebody, okay, I refuse to give you this because I believe there should be an appraisal and a reward system in giving. But that's just because I've seen adolescents have gotten so, where they've gotten what people call spoiled. Spoiled, this means that I expect people to
cater
do
to
what
me.
I ask them to do and cater to me, right? So when that's not done, then it takes my control system away. When it takes my control system away, then when I feel some kind of way, I became angered. I became, I became like, oh, you don't love me anymore. So I feel like I'm abandoned. I feel like I'm separated or divided from you because you're not giving me the control that I had from all the other yeses that you told me about. Mm-hmm. Right? So if they're not corrected with that, and they just expect that all the time, again, they're going to grow up in that mindset. They're going to grow up in that mindset of expecting things to be the way they want them to be and to control what they want to control, right? And that may not be the case. So, and because they're going to soon find out that life does not give you everything that you want, okay? Neither does people, And don't get upset about it. Don't get a tantrum about it because most of the time they do. That's what we call children that are small. They get tantrums, when they can't get what they want because they've always given what they want. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I can understand that. And I definitely see the difference between...
But it's not refusal.
Right.
It's not refusal, which means if you choose to give your children what they ask or what they request, please give it to them in a way that's structured and also let them know, okay, all right, you asked, like for example, you asked for 5 pieces of candy, but guess what? Every time you ask for it, I always give you 5 pieces of candy. But one day, I can't give it to you, right? And it's not when you started that off when they were 4 years old, giving them that 5 pieces of candy, so they started asking you for something else. And ask you for something else, but you steady giving it to them, right? So one day, in their later years, let's say about 16 years old, that they ask you for something that you cannot give.
And then they're angry.
Okay, and, they're going to get angry because they're used to you doing everything for them. That's called enablement.
So I think
it starts with the smallest details. Believe it or not, it starts with the smallest things, and then it grows into the larger things because the mind doesn't always know the difference. That's why when you do it, it has to be an appraisal, a rewarding, and also reprimand and direct it if you're going to give them. I'm giving this because of this, and it's going to do this. But don't expect to always get this. And between siblings, there's a lot of times that becomes problematic as well. Because one parent may do one thing for a sibling, but may not do for the other. And then they start, having...
You're talking about really causing some conflict.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, now that's...
Right?
Yeah.
And all these are still invisible loyalties, believe it or not. Everything you just said is invisible loyalty. Because whatever we grew up in, we expect our life to be.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Think about that. Whatever you were exposed to, you expect your life to be.
And unless you make a conscious choice to perhaps do the exact opposite, such as maybe somebody who grew up in an impoverished family where they couldn't have things, they may tend to overindulge a child. Once they start to have their children, maybe they've had a certain amount of financial success, so they are overly indulgent to their children because they felt deprived as a child. I think there has to be a balance or an understanding of what unconditional love is, and unconditional love does not mean overindulgence. And maybe some parents have a difficulty understanding how to express unconditional love, but not to overindulge a child. And at the same time, like you're saying, if a child requests something, they understand why they're not giving it if they are. And if they are giving it, they understand it's something that you hope will enhance their well-being or even their health or whatever the case may be. I've seen parents stress over not being able to give their child some expensive game or toy, and it's almost like they're afraid the child's going to be mad at them. And I know that when they reach that point, there's an imbalance there. It shouldn't ever be that you fear you're going to lose the loss of love of your child because you can't buy them this thing, or you feel like a failure as a parent. So that had to have been instilled somewhere, I don't know. But also,
from the past.
Yeah, apparently from the past. But this is why I think the concept of unconditional love has to be part of what a child grows up with. Whether you give them something or not, they know, they feel that you never stop loving them. So whatever you do, it's done in love, whether it's withholding something that you think is harmful, like, okay, I want those 5 pieces of candy. Well, no, because your teeth are forming, I don't want you having cavities, so no, you can't have them. I love you, therefore I'm going to protect your teeth. As opposed to, well, no, you can't have it. And the child just, crying, oh, I want it, and then you slap them because they want it and they're crying. That's usually the pattern. And they don't have understanding as to why you're not only denying them, but then angry because they expressed upset that they didn't have what they wanted. And we go through that pattern without children ever understanding why they're denied something, and parents being angry when their children respond to not receiving something, punishing the child for being upset about it instead of patiently explaining, and then letting the child express whatever their emotion is. But, if we're firm in our decision that this is something that's harmful for you, then we stand our ground and we're at peace with it. I don't know. Is that a teachable tool for parents, knowing how to be unconditionally loving and at the same time showing wisdom as to when they're giving and when they're withholding something from a child?
Absolutely, but that's only if they're healed. See, a lot of times the parents are not healed. They're not healed. They're traumatized in their own stuff from their own childhood. So, again, invisible law clearly says they become the thing that they hate the most. And unconsciously, that means you ain't conscious of it. Half the time people are not conscious that they're screaming and yelling of their kids. They just do it by impulse. Yeah. They do it by impulse. They don't know the damages of they don't know the damaging effects of screaming, yelling, cursing, putting down, set your bad ass down, excuse my French,
But that's what folks say to their children.
Going on and on and on and on. Because it's normal to them. We know that culturally. Y'all heard that even in the grocery store. You could be in the grocery store here and hear a mom screaming, yelling at her kids.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you come back and you go over there and ask them, why are you screaming and yelling at your kids? You better mind your so-and-so business. Okay? Because guess what? Somebody screamed and yelled at her when she was a child.
Right.
So it's just
and they think it's normal.
I hate to say normal. I hate to say that word. But it's a normal process. It's a normal process. Here comes the child, later on in life, traumatized.
Yeah.
Traumatized by loud sounds.
Yeah.
I have some adolescents I talk to, and just by loud sounds. They hear loud sounds. they can hear a siren go off, a barking dog, and they just like jump. You know what I'm saying? Not realizing. The parents don't even realize they've already traumatized their children.
I've heard that stuttering is caused by that, trauma of always being yelled at. You're already speaking, you're told shut up, and you're yelled at for what you say, and so you develop that hesitancy in your speech. And is stuttering like a brain malfunction kind of thing? When a person something's not connecting in the brain, and it's caused by that startle reflex of the way we respond to a child, hollering at a child, screaming at a child at those early stages. So the way their speech, they're afraid to talk, and so it comes out as a stutter.
Right, but it's also caused by suppressed emotion.
Oh,
because think about it, the energy that's in your throat chakra is stifled. Your throat chakra energy, because you're not speaking clearly. So that means at some given point in your life, you do not have the freedom to speak.
Wow.
See what I'm saying?
Yes. Wow.
So that's what of stuttering. And what's amazing is that some people that can sing stutter, but when they sing, they don't stutter.
Well, James Earl Jones is one of the greatest voices of all time in acting. He was a stutterer, but when he would say his lines, come out perfect. So, it's amazing.
So what that says that when one has the confidence to do do something, they can override. Something that's physical.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's how you know how powerful the brain is.
Yeah.
If the energy is there to produce another mindset, another I call it a network of things, right? So when we were talking about addictions, we're talking about emotional transfers of energy when it comes to dysfunction. But you can create another network, even if you went through the trauma, even if you experienced the trauma, you can create another network in the brain. I mean, literally, it's called behavior, network change. But most of all, cognitive behavior. Cognitive behavior therapy helps you create another program. But it has to be first acknowledged and with repetition. Because repetition is the only way that you're going to create the habit. The habit is the one that creates the network.
Wow.
Network change.
That's powerful.
So trauma, I believe that trauma, because, you can talk about trauma all day long, but when you start reliving trauma, that is called PTSD. We relive the trauma, right? We relive the trauma because of our impulses, and our nervous system has become adapt to the trauma.
Wow.
So now any loud sound, anything could trigger us. Even in the middle of the night, we can have a dream, and we know that to be productive and true.
Right. People wake up screaming. Yeah.
Right. Where if a person had an accident or a veteran that was in the war or anything, you can have a dream that will wake you up traumatized.
That's
right, because you get triggered from the dream.
Yeah.
And it's only because the nervous system remembers, the body keeps the score. Every cell in your body remembers. We call it epigenetics, transfer of energy from that traumatized area, experience, that time, and then constantly recycling. That's what it is. It's a recycle.
Wow.
Right? So how do we because I want to spend these last few minutes talking about regeneration, because that's this part that we didn't talk about.
Right. We got to take one last quick.
Our cellular structure.
Yes. We got to take one last quick break.
Take a break first?
And then we got another call on the line, and we'll be right back after this quick break. So we just want you to stick and stay.
Okay.
Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment.
No problem.
Stay with us.
Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world.
Big difference.
Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on Cable TV, Channel 19 in Chicago. In other cities, check your local cable listings.
All right. Area code 706-202, Grand Rising. yourself to our listening and viewing audience and give a question or comment for Dr. Debbie Green.
Well, greetings, Dr. Debbie Green, and assalamu alaikum to you, Sister Naima. And this is Elder Kwame calling you from Edenton, Georgia. And, this is an excellent topic.
Kwame from Georgia.
Yep, Kwame from Georgia. Anyway, we made it through the storm. The thing that I'm hearing is right, and the thing that I'm hearing, and it's an excellent topic, invisible loyalty. And the thing that I'm looking at is that we're taught how to be loyal to certain things. And even in the training of our children in school, we send them to public school, and the first thing that they learn is, and it's kind of funny that you're picking this topic, and it was in August of 1892 that Francis Bellamy created what most youth has to say when they enter into school is, I pledge allegiance to my flag of the Republic, which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty. So the thing is that you're taught to make an allegiance, and this is a part that we look at is, do we have an allegiance to our parents? And how is that? By what you said earlier was unconditional love. Children come into the world needing, your time and your love. Your time and your love. All the other little things that you give them that provide for them to nurture them is given, but the importance in how you spend that time with them and how do you give that love to them creates the direction in which that child will go and how it will see you when it becomes older. Will it be loyal to you, or I don't want to go to my mama's house because they got chaos and all of this. So it's in the way, and Dr. Debbie talked about epigenetics. What were the traumas that we had? Because there's a lot of indigenous people now looking at decolonization because we were colonized here on this Turtle Island, and we were programmed to have a certain loyalty to certain economic standards in the way that we were allowed to have certain privileges and not have privileges. And these are things in which we have to look at how do we decolonize this colonization, and how do we decolonize education, decolonize our diet, how do we understand how to eat sovereign food. These are ways in which we have to begin to reprogram the programmers, because we've all been programmed. This is why we used to get the TV Guide in the Sunday paper, is because we want to see how we want to be programmed.
There you go. How we want to be programmed, because that's what it is.
Yeah. So, Debbie, and she's given excellent ways in which, and especially the part in acknowledging your present, because when we learn to stay in the present, the gift of now, and now is the word, because if you turn the word around, is that you own now and you've won. All three of those words is in that word now. Own who you are in the present moment. You won this moment, and you own, these are the ways in which we begin to rewire our neural net.
I definitely agree. Baba Kwame said something about the colonization situation, and yet we're talking about helping people live in the now. I think that's one of the biggest steps we have to take as people whose ancestors have gone through a traumatic experience. But we are not now living that experience. We have memories of it. We have people who might be unpleasant to us. But there is nobody forcing us at gunpoint to stay on a plantation and pick cotton and be whipped if we don't pick it fast enough. No one's doing that. In fact, no one's really stopping us from figuring out a product or service we can sell at our own leisure time and with our own efforts and go into an independent business and be our own boss. No one's stopping us from doing that at all. So for us to keep reliving the trauma of forced labor is damaging and unnecessary. We are not now in that experience. That is not our identity. That's not even our reality. So why are we recreating it? And can we learn to stop recreating that experience and reliving a trauma that really was not our own personal trauma, but might be recorded in our cells, our cellular memory, yet we have the power to create another cellular memory and let that one go. So, Dr. Debbie, what are your thoughts on that? And, of course, you know, the epigenetics that we keep carrying on.
Well, I can clearly tell you by evidence, and everyone knows this, that one constantly relives the same traumatic, enslaved mindset of an ancestral experience, because it is wherever you are enslaved at is what you're reliving it at. So, you know, the invisible loyalties of that enslaved mentality is going back into victim mentality. So the victim mentality clearly states, you know, I live victimized by my past. And then I now live my past because I am victimized and enslaved by it. I live it mentally, emotionally, physically, you know, even spiritually.
Yes.
Even unconscious of this thing that I'm dealing with me. And then guess what? I then protrude that action, that behavior, that energy outside of myself out into my own environment. And that's how these things are duplicated and recycled. All experiences is nothing but recycled energy, recycled thoughts, recycled experiences. Now, they're either going to be functional or dysfunctional. One of our viewers on Facebook are actually one of our, that's Deborah Smith, okay, one of our hosts for the Female Solution. She said, Grand Rising, I find there can be different levels of unconditional love betrayed by each being. Do we really understand what unconditional love is? Now, if I was to answer that question, I'm going to say, no, we do not understand it. We do not comprehend it. Unconditional love is the greatest love of all. We call it the agape love, which is the it's the love of our Creator. That means you unconditionally love something despite what it is.
Right.
It could be the worst, the best, or the extremely ugly, but you still love it.
Yeah.
You still accept it for what it is. Now, how many people that walk this earth do that? Very little people, right?
Where do you see it demonstrated?
Broad mind.
Right.
Pardon me?
I said, where do we see it demonstrated to even know what it looks like? Yes. Yes.
It takes a broad mind. It takes a very broad mind to look at it from the beginning all the way to the end. You know, I'm saying from longevity to acute, which is short term. Looking at it like, you know, and it also takes a person that's very confident with themselves, because most people, it's very difficult for them to accept anything if they don't accept themselves. They comparison. We do comparison. Oh, I'm not like that, so that's different. I'm not accepting that because that doesn't make any sense. It may not make any sense to you, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. You see what I'm saying? So you then get into this prejudgment type of mindset. You start judging something. Unconditional love has no judgment.
Right.
At all.
Right.
And so if you remove the judgment, then you can put the unconditional love in its proper position. That means that I accept you despite what you are. You see what I'm saying? Not to pity you, not to make you feel victimized or unaccepted. I'm just going to meet you where you are.
Right.
You meet people where they are because this is all they have. If that's all they know, that's all they know. Most people have an issue giving love because they may only know how to give you 30%, but you giving 100. Right. So you're not going to feel that love was balanced. Well, and then you get upset. Why you can't love me the way I love you because they don't know how to love because of something that happened in their life, something that they experienced. And who's to say who knows how to love? Because none of us have met that match.
Well, you know, we would like our parents to give us unconditional love, but parents can't do that because they've been raised with conditional love. I'll love you if you obey me. I'll love you if you do as I ask. I'll love you if you don't make mistakes. I'll love you if you look the way I want you to look. I'll love you if you say what I want you to say. I'll love you if you are doing something that will be acceptable to the society. I won't love you if you do something that disappoints me. If you get pregnant and you don't have the spouse that I wanted you to have, I will shun you. If you fail in school, I will shun you. If you get overweight and are physically not healthy and appealing to look at, I will shun you. I mean, these are the messages that we give our children. This is the way we treat our children. So what they learn is conditional love. I love you only if you please me. Otherwise, I will not treat you well. I will snub you. I will ignore your needs and your wants because love is conditional. Love has to be earned. That's what we're taught, and that's what we're believing. And so if a person grew up that way, that's all they have to give. That's all they know.
Well, again, you know, it is the case, but again, they have to have self-awareness at some given point. And most people visit self-awareness, but they don't live self-awareness. You know, you're aware that you may have a paper cut on your finger. Okay, that's because it caused you pain. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then once you know it's there, then you ignore it. Unless it starts to hurt again. Pain is the only thing that keeps us conscious, believe it or not, unfortunately. Think about that.
So pain gets our attention.
Conscious. Oh, I am in pain. That's when I'm going to feel pain, when I am in pain. But what about the pain that I got used to a long time ago, years ago, over and over again from my childhood that I have adapted to? I have adapted to this pain. Now, guess what? I don't even feel this pain consciously anymore. Now, the invisible loyalties have taken over me. The invisible loyalties of the things I've had in my past that I experienced, the things that tore me down, that I no longer wanted, that I thought I couldn't, get through. Now I became it, and now it's laying dormant inside of me. Okay, so is it going to cause a problem? Absolutely. I call it the volcano that has not erupted yet, okay? I call it a breathing, walking time machine that's waiting to actually a time bomb. We see them all the time. We see them all the time on the news, on circular media, secular media, all of it, social media. We see it all the time where the invisible loyalties become so infested to the point it becomes toxic and then takes over the identity of another human being.
Wow.
All right. And if people think that's not real, pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. Catch it when it smiles. I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm just telling you this is what happens. Because guess what? That was a child in a woman's womb one day that came to earth as a baby. Yes. All right.
Yes.
That's the way that person started off, just like all of us.
Yes.
We all started off the same way. So what happened? What happened?
What happened?
How did they become to that infested, non-feeling person to take lives?
Something
to take
happened.
Lives by their own hand, not just by somebody else's hand, their own hand.
What happened?
We see it every day. We see it every day, people. We see mothers killing children, children killing mothers, fathers killing themselves and killing their families. We see it every day, right? Okay.
Right.
This is the reason why I do this show. I do this show to help people who are maybe in the mildest state, or may see some dysfunction around them, or may have experienced something that they say, oh, no, that ain't nothing. They're going to no, Be aware of your surroundings.
Wow.
Because someone could be festering in toxicity due to experiencing trauma from their past that has not been dealt with, has not been solved, that has no resolve, no solution, and they're still living it. And just because they're quiet doesn't mean they're not experiencing it.
Wow.
Because quiet death is the most dangerous death of all.
Wow.
Quiet death.
So how do we deal with the fact that so many people are walking time bombs? And I think that's where a lot of the paranoia is coming, because these things erupt out of seemingly nowhere. But of course, as you pointed out, it is somewhere. It's been there. It's that pain they've been ignoring, but it's festering, and something happens to trigger it, explodes or whatever. Or maybe whatever happens, they are now planning this assault of a group of people, and they carry it out methodically. And when it happens, everybody was taken by surprise. So there's a rising paranoia that this could happen at any moment. And yet we can't live like that, because then we'll all be paranoid and all end up in some state of mental illness. So how do we inject, I guess for lack of a better term, positive vibrations wherever we go? So even if somebody's on the edge, we can be somebody that kind of pushes them away from the edge and helps them toward healing just by our presence. What do you suggest?
Well, again, if you ever see an opportunity of somebody that's in pain, and of course, people, again, suffer in silence. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you can have somebody right next to you. They could be your family members, your best friend, or whatever, and they could be suffering in silence, and they don't tell people that they're suffering.
Right.
So, it's always like, we say positive, empowering things. Like, I know people that you just be having a conversation in it all, and you may notice that someone's having some discomfort. And you're going to say, this too shall pass. Stay positive. Not only that, stay empowered. Take care of yourself. I know you can do it. You're not alone in your journey. And just saying something. Yeah. Saying something, because the world we live in right now, Naima, is festering. Okay?
Yes.
And it's not the world, it's also the inhabitants of the world,
yes,
of this place called Earth, okay? And they're festering, they're toxic to each other, unfortunately. And again, because the love is waxing cold, as you can see that. And that's in the Word of God. It said, do not let your love wax cold. Think about wax. Wax, if it don't have no fire, it's solid. It's cold, and it doesn't burn. But when it has fire in it, it's pliable, it's melting, and it's illuminating. So, we want to spread love as much as we can by education, by empowerment, by emotion, by inspiration, by affirmation, by declaration. Any way you can get it out there in yourself, especially because when you walk around it in yourself, it's going to protrude out of you. It's going to literally come out of you to another human being. I do it all the time. It's just a reaction. So just be encouraged. Again, look back on your life. Look at those areas that's dysfunctional and be aware. Be aware of what you got going on inside of you. Is it productive?
Yes.
Don't pretend like it's not there. If it's not productive, if you know it's broken, fix it. Get healing.
Yeah.
Don't just act like it's not there, because the thing about this is, at some given issue in your tissue.
So true.
Be encouraged. Thank you, YouTube, for watching. Please subscribe to our channel. Again, we want to hear from you. Rise is coming, RISE.
Yes.
Reaching Inwardly Spiritual Empowerment. Launch date is September 15th. I'm excited about that because I'm going to be doing a lot of Facebooking and YouTubing and Instagram. So be encouraged. I love you. Stay blessed.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear every show in the archives at www.blogtalkradio.com
/the-female-solution. You can also hear today's show on the Female Solution Facebook page. Go to www.facebook.com/thefemalesolution. Leave your comments about today's show. You can always reach me on my website at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Watch our TV shows, listen to our radio shows, order our books, and be sure to get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family listening from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, Sheshe, India, Zanyaba, Japan, Arigato, Korea, Kamsahamnida, Russia, Spasiba, Germany, Danke, Poland, Dziękuję, France, Merci, Spain, Gracias, Italy, Grazie, Egypt, Shukran, Ghana, Medasi, Nigeria, Eshe, South Africa, Ngiyabonga, Senegal, Jaret, Kenya, Asante, Israel, Toda, Pakistan, Shukriya, Afghanistan, Tashakkur, Saudi Arabia, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessing.